The War on Poverty After 40 Years, a Minskyan Assessment by Stephanie Bell and L. Randall Wray. A structuralist interpretation of relationships among employment, unemployment, and poverty. Minsky emphasized that joblessness, insufficient hours of work, and low pay combine to create poverty among the able-bodied. He went on to argue that it was obvious that expanded, improved, and modernized programs of transfer payments and income in kind for the aged, the infirm, the disabled, and needy children are necessary. As I see it, this had little to do with the war on poverty. It has mainly to do with our national conscience and affection for man. In other words, he was willing to grant that a system of welfare would be required to deal with those who could not or should not work. He insisted, however, that a comprehensive jobs program together with an effective and adequate minimum wage would go a long way toward eliminating poverty among those willing and able to work. Significantly, he called for a tight full employment goal of 2.5% unemployment rate. Compared with the expected 5.2% unemployment rate in 1965, he calculated this would have increased GNP by $39 billion to $53 billion, using Okun's law, according to which each 1 percentage point reduction of unemployment raises GNP by 3%. Minsky pointed out that this is far above the estimated $11 billion or $12 billion it would take to raise the incomes of all living in poverty above the poverty line for that year. Hence, while a comprehensive employment strategy might not resolve all poverty problems, it would certainly generate more than enough GNP to eliminate poverty, provided that the GNP gains were appropriately distributed. Structuralists tend to emphasize job mismatch. Even at cyclical peaks, when the aggregate number of jobs might be sufficient, the skills, education, and other characteristics of a substantial set of the unemployed would leave them without jobs. Such views were dominant among policymakers of the early 1960s, Russell 2004, and similar views were also favored at the end of the 1990s as the new economy boom left low-skilled workers behind. But the structuralists of the early 1960s went further, because they argued that technological and other structural changes to job markets would outstrip any ability to educate and retrain displaced workers. In other words, they were highly skeptical that supply-side policies alone would be sufficient to resolve the growing unemployment problem. What was needed was a combination of active labor market policies and direct job creation programs for the structurally displaced. Minsky pointed out that even if the economy were not dynamically created structurally displaced workers, Minsky pointed out that even if the economy were not dynamically creating structurally displaced workers, labor market supply-side programs would have little effect for up to 20 years, the gestation period required to produce a worker. Quote, "We are learning that what happens to a child between the ages of 3 and 5 is of vital importance in determining the capabilities of the adult. Thus, preschool training is necessary to break the vicious circle of poverty. But if this view is true, then it takes 18 to 20 years to realize the benefits from such programs." End quote. In a dynamic society that is always moving and generally raising the skills goalposts, that long gestation period almost guarantees that many individuals achieving the age of labor force entry will not be prepared for the jobs that then exist. Thus, there would always be a mismatch between labor supply and demand.